Y'all, hey, what's happening? If you're new to my channel, my name is Tasha Marie TMR. How you doing, baby? All right, if this is your first time here and you have not yet subscribed, please do so at this moment. And if you've been watching me for a while and you're realizing, dang, I keep missing all of Tasha Marie TMR's videos. Well, girl, go on, click the notification bell. Make sure you click the top option, which is all, so therefore you can be notified every time I drop a new video. And if you've been watching me for a while and you still like, sis, go on, hit that subscribe button. You know you love me. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another sit-down reaction video. Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. So as you know from the title, I wanted to talk about the Amber Guyger and Botham Jean's trial. Well, the Amber Guyger versus the state of Texas trial. She was put on trial for murdering Botham Jean. All right, you guys. So I remember hearing about this last year. It was around this time last year, in September of last year, the early part of September. I remember hearing about that because, again, it made national news when this happened. And if you're not aware, it's either maybe because you don't have an internet, you don't have a TV or a radio. Amber Guyger has been on trial. Her trial has been going on for, 5 days? And today, you guys, they deliberated and released a verdict, and she was found guilty of murder, of murdering Botham Jean. So I just personally want to give you guys my thoughts and opinions of the things that I've heard. I had been listening to the case on Court TV. I've been also, Googling some things and trying to find out more information about the case. And it's a travesty for everybody involved. It's definitely a travesty for this young man who lost his life. From what people were saying about him, he was truly a fine gentleman. A lover of God, very smart guy. Family adored him. Okay? And Amber Guyger, has lost too. Losing her freedom. Her family is hurting. She's hurting. So there's no winners, of course, on either side. Okay. But my question is, you guys, on that fateful night when that horrific crime happened, I just want to know how and why. So here's my thoughts, y'all. From what I understand, Botham Jean and Amber Guyger lived on the south side of Dallas in this complex called the Southside Flats, okay? And she lived above him. So she lived on the 4th floor, he lived on the 3rd floor, okay? Amber gets off of work. Was a Dallas police officer, been on the force for 4 years, and she worked that night, had worked that day, 13.5-hour shift. She coming home, parked on the 3rd floor ramp instead of going to the 4th floor ramp where her apartment is located. She walks through the parking garage, gets inside the building, goes to an apartment that she assumed was hers, and later found out it wasn't hers. And this is where things get really foggy for me and of course for a lot of other people. When you approach that apartment door that fateful night and the door was ajar, they said that the door, his door was not working properly. So his door was a little ajar. And when she went to get ready to put the key and noticed that the door was ajar, there was something else that stood out that was in front of his apartment door. It was a big red doormat. Okay, so Botham Jean had a big red doormat in front of his door. Okay, she did not. When she walked into that apartment, because the door was partially ajar, so I guess she pushed open the door to go in. At no time did you not recognize that none of the contents, like in the beginning foyer of going into the apartment, that none of this stuff was familiar? You guys, from what I read, they said he had an apartment full of furniture, and her apartment was barely furnished. Like, at that point, to me, personally, when I would have walked in and seen that there was furniture, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I mean, I'm confused about that part. And then when so from what I understand, from what I read and what I heard, she saw a silhouette, okay, of a man or a person. Okay, she saw a silhouette of a person. It said that Botham Jean was actually sitting on his couch in his apartment, eating ice cream, watching television. When she saw the silhouette, she gave a command and then started shooting. At some point, I guess she realized she was in the wrong apartment. Okay, I'm assuming after she shot him is when she realized. She shot the man twice. I listened, you guys, to the 911 phone call that was made. I believe that phone call lasted anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes. I don't remember the exact minutes. I believe it was between 5 and 7 minutes. And it was the hardest thing to listen to, because as you're listening to her calling for help, you hear Botham Jean taking his last breaths. And while she was on that phone with that operator, and again, y'all, these are my thoughts and opinions. While she was on that phone with that operator, as she was talking, the footage that I was watching was actually typing what she was saying for people that probably couldn't really understand, if her language was garbled, considering what was going on. And all she kept saying was, I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. You can hear the operator asking her questions. You can hear her responding to the questions. You can hear her using expletives, basically saying she's screwed, but screwed wasn't the word she used. What I took when I listened to that audio, she was thinking more of her life than of this person's life that was laying next to her, literally taking their last breaths. What I was alarmed about and what I didn't understand is, why didn't she start CPR? Like, once you realize that you was in the wrong apartment and you clearly have shot a man who was unarmed and was not in the wrong, why didn't you start CPR? But I also noticed, y'all, when that 911 operator that was taking the emergency call, once she identified herself as being an off-duty police officer, the 911 operator didn't even instruct her to start CPR. Like, nobody said anything about CPR. Nobody. And it's just words cannot just express it, because even though whatever sentence that they give her, as we all know, will not give this man his life back. I believe Botham Jean was 26 years old, young man, whole life ahead of him. He's been robbed of his life. His family has been robbed of his light, of his goodness, of his kindness. Yeah, they won't ever see that again. And you know, I'm just confused on how, you know, again, you guys, of course, I wasn't there. You weren't there. There were two people there, her and him. And what I really feel like she's guilty of is her reasoning skills. I feel like once she walked into that apartment and she seen that silhouette, my opinion is she should have turned around and retreated back out of the apartment and called for help. I feel like she should have did that. She didn't do that. She proceeded to keep going in the apartment, not knowing who or what she was coming up against. I felt like if she would have walked backwards or turned around, and however she needed to do it, and walked back out that apartment, she was more closer to going back out the apartment than she was going even further into the apartment. I feel like that woman is guilty of not using good reasoning skills. I feel like she's guilty of not using the skills and tactics that she was taught of being a police officer for 4 years. She was not a brand new police officer. She's a police officer for 4 years. I feel like that is what she's guilty of. Because there's so many things that she could have done that potentially would still had that man here today. And she did not do it. She shot that man 2 times. If anything, 1 time should have been the warning shot. Even if that shot was enough time to turn around for you to get away. Shooting him twice, to me, was overkill. And then, you know, I'm dealing with the fact that she didn't even try to attempt to do CPR on the man. She had to know who he was. He lived directly below her. She was the apartment on top of him. So I'm pretty sure she has seen him before in passing. You know, they said that they tried to, her attorneys, lawyers tried to attribute her reasoning skills of walking into the wrong apartment because she was tired. She was extremely, extremely lethargic and tired from working 13.5 hours. But there was also evidence given that phone records of hers showed that she was texting, I guess, a love interest of hers that was a fellow co-worker of hers. She was texting this person minutes before she shot this man. You know, maybe she was distracted when she was texting, but even with that being said, once you walked into that apartment, like, you know the feel of your apartment, you know how your apartment smells, you know, or your house or whatever. Everybody's house has a distinct odor, not a stinky odor, but you know the smell of your home. You know, once you walked into that apartment and you didn't get that familiar feeling of being at home, I mean, that right there should have told you something is wrong, and she should have immediately turned around, walked out the door. I mean, hindsight is 20/20. God knows. But I watched today on Court TV the verdict. And when the verdict was read and they said that she was guilty of murder, like, the court was starting to erupt, but the judge immediately ceased that and said no outbursts. And once the judge dismissed the court, you heard and then you saw others getting up, hugging each other, crying. And I believe the reason why is because of recent events in our country of our black men and women being murdered unarmed by the hands of white police officers and getting off and not being able and not, you know, being held accountable of their crime. Like, I think the fear of this happening in this trial, I think the anticipation of that fear, people were really thinking like that was going to be another situation in this case. And once they heard the verdict, it was just tears like, oh my God. That woman, she, Amber Guyger, she held up as much as she could. And then when I was watching, because they had to film, the camera focused on her attorney and herself, who was sitting side by side. And when the family and supporters walked out into the gangway or the galley of the courtroom out in the hallway, you can hear other people erupting and, you know, and cheer and stuff. And then all of a sudden I seen her attorney just shaking his head like, and then the next thing you know, you could see her shoulders crouching over because she was becoming very emotional. She started crying. I mean, rightfully so. I would be crying too. It's just a sad situation, y'all. And it's just a sad case. And I just pray for peace and comfort to the John family. I truly do. I pray for their peace and their comfort. I know this trial is not going to bring their son back, but at least justice has prevailed. And, you know, finally, in this case. This was a very hard case to watch. It was a very hard case to follow, listen to, because there's so many lives that was destroyed, y'all. There's a whole bunch of lives that were destroyed in this case, and it's just sad. All right, you guys, I just wanted to share my thoughts and opinions with you guys about what I saw, you know, in the past couple of days of the trial. And y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. You know, do you feel like justice was served? Y'all let me know. All right, you guys, I thank you so much for watching this video, and I really appreciate it. And remember, you guys, sub what you love. I see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.